Good morning, Patrick. How are you?
Good morning, Sarah. I'm fine, and you?
Yeah, pretty good actually. What are we now? The end of week 4 of lockdown, so this is the new normal.
It's nice, to be honest. It's nice to get a challenge like this that you're able to dig deep inside and see what you can come up with to, keep yourself motivated and keep yourself going.
Absolutely. I think I've done quite a lot of these videos over the last couple of weeks, and the emphasis is the same as how can we make the best of this opportunity. Unlikely we'll get another one like this in our lifetime. It's pretty rare that the entire world has stopped. What can we do? So, Patrick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Patrick Flanagan. I'm a family man. I work with early school leavers for the past 20 years, and I'm heavily involved in football, both club and county, for the past 25 years. I've completed a degree in training and education, and I completed my practitioner course with yourself this time last year, around May last year, actually.
Oh my gosh, was that this time last year? Wow.
Yes, so quick. So I think from my perspective, I have a lot of dealings with people, young people in particular. So I've from a sporting point of view, I've worked with young people from minor, which is under 18, right up to senior level. The young people I work with in my training are from 15 to 20. So I've come across a lot of, let's say, issues that young people and people in general would have had. And hopefully today that I can use that experience and maybe somebody can get some benefit from it.
Absolutely. And I know we spoke a couple of days ago about, catching up and to do this video. And one of the things that we've talked about over the years is the mental health of young people. And obviously at this time, particularly for those who can't get out to do some exercise, and if they're typically involved with sports, they would use their training and their sports as a way of helping them with their mental health, because obviously we release endorphins, we feel better if we've got up and exercised. So for those young people in particular who are being restricted that way at the moment, there is a concern around, what's happening to them.
I think the fear of the unknown for no matter what age group that you're dealing with is massive. I suppose when I look at all the training that I've ever done, like every time I went to a different setup, whether it's a different club or a different county, the one thing I used to say was that 95% of teams will train physically the same, but like I've always went in and said that what we were going to do was train mentally, and that's what I've always been trying to achieve with both the footballers that I've been working with and my young people as well. I work in a place called the Training Development Agency in Mullingar.
And you've been incredibly successful with that approach, haven't you?
Well, I'm not saying incredibly successful, but I've had some success in that regard. I suppose, Sarah, just to put it in perspective, I've won a championship with every club team that I've trained, and I do put it down an awful lot to the mental side of things rather than the physical side of things. Obviously, like there has to be preparation done from a physical point of view, but it's the mental training that I think that makes a difference. And I always go back to the concept that, like, if you eat bad food, what's going to happen to you? You're going to feel ill, you're going to feel unwell. But if you eat good food, you're going to feel good and you're going to have plenty of energy. But if you feed your mind with negative thoughts, well then, from a mental point of view, you're going to feel ill and you're going to come under pressure. Whereas, if you constantly feed your mind with positive thoughts, well then you're going to have a better perspective of how things are.
Absolutely. And some people might say, well, it's positive thinking, that's unrealistic, you're being overly optimistic and everything else. What would you say if someone said that to you?
Well, you can only deal with the here and now, and you can only deal with your concept of what's going on in life. And basically, like, you have a choice. You can be a victim or a victor. And the bottom line is, if you want to be a victim, you'll always see the bad in everything. But if you want to be a victor, you can see the good there. There's plenty of mindsets that you can go through. People that are under pressure at any given time, I think we all come under pressure at various different times. But if you can go back to the basics, and I've taught and I've learned from you, especially grounding in particular. Like, I may have been doing it with players and with young people, and I really didn't know what I was doing. But when I learned that on my course with you, it makes a massive difference. And to be honest, I was a little bit anxious coming on here this morning, but I went out to my garden and in my bare feet with a cup of coffee. And for the first time, I looked around, Sarah, and started to realize, what is around me. I live in the hills. I used to go out and say, this is lovely, but I actually took in everything that was going on around me, and I was able to appreciate what you have. And sometimes we need to realize that, what we have is more important than what we might be able to get in the future, whether it be good or bad. So I think we need to kind of live in the moment, understand where we're coming from, understand that, life has gone on. We've had various problems right through life. We've had world wars. We've had, the Spanish flu. We've had serious trouble within our own country, and we survived them all, and we've moved on. And we will move on from this, I believe. And I do honestly think that, we need to connect with each other. And I believe, especially when I'm training with a team or training my young people in particular, that you can develop a connection that can spread. And I think that we need to do this going forward.
Absolutely. So what are some of the things that you would do with your players typically to help them to, I suppose one of the terms that I would prefer using rather than mental health is actually mental fitness, because it implies that we can actually train our brains, we can train our thoughts, just the same way we can train our body. And if we don't, it'll fall back to bad habits, and it's kind of, the easy route and maybe what we've observed growing up. But if we become conscious and actually aware of some of the things that we're doing mentally, then we can actually build our mental fitness up, so that dealing with a challenge like this, not that it's easy, but it becomes easier.
Yes, well, I learned something from Tony Robbins. It was the term CANI, C-A-N-I, constant and never-ending improvement. And I have worked with my players from that perspective, that you're not going to make massive gains in anything that you achieve or try to do. There won't be massive benefits all at once. Maybe on other occasion that may happen, but it's all the minute things that you can add to your development that can get you across the line when the line is there, when you have to get across that line. It's all the minute things that can build and build that will make a massive difference when it's required. And I think what we need to do during these times is have a look at what we've got, learn from the past, learn from when we had positive thoughts within our heads and when things were going really well from us, and take advantage of all the smaller things that we achieve. I suppose every one of us wants to look at the TV, the news, and see what's going on in this world. And, we hear about the different cases, and it's really, really sad and really, really terrible. But I do think while people need to stay on top of what's going on, I think when they come away from the news and the TV, they need to start realizing that, they're still in this earth and they're still alive, and they still have something to offer that can benefit this virus, and we can fight it together. There are going to be casualties, sadly, but the stronger we are as a unit, the better we can be.
Absolutely. So you mentioned grounding, and I know we first met, I actually can't remember how many years ago now. I can't remember. I know that it was when you were coaching, was it Westmeath Senior Football?
That's right. Yeah, it was back in Westmeath. I think it was around 2011, Sarah, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes.
And grounding is one of the things that I introduced to the team. I was, I was lucky enough to be invited along and have a chat with them. And I know that and in sports, often we talk about getting into the zone. And that whole thing of where suddenly everything is flowing, where you're really connecting, where you're almost operating from autopilot, but in a really positive way. Everything just seems to align. And grounding for me is a little bit like getting into the zone in terms of sports, but you don't have to physically be doing anything active. It's more about actually just being still. So you said you kind of didn't realize you were using that already until I kind of gave it a name, I suppose.
Well, Sarah, look at that. I suppose, like, I've been, as I said, dealing with young people and adults for the past 25 years in a sporting field, and I have seen individuals crumble under pressure, crumble because of fear. Fear is a huge tool. Like, you know what I mean? It can absolutely debilitate people, and I have seen the best of players crumble when it comes to a situation where they've got to get across the line. We said the likes of finals and things like that. And, I've actually, sat back and thought about it over the number of years. And I've tried to develop means and ways of ensuring that players in particular would be at their best when their best is needed. And, this grounding thing that you showed me in particular in 2011, guys are able to kind of, just set themselves up. Like, when you go to play an important match of any means, there is going to be anxiety. But the difference in football is that, like, if you kick a pass and it's, 1 millimeter off leaving your foot, it's going to be 30, if you're kicking a pass 30 yards away, well, then it's going to be very, very far away from where it should be. So basically, like, we need to, and, I think that's one of the big assets that I have brought to football teams, is that we're at our best when our best is needed, and our best is achieved by the likes of our grounding, where fellas are able to go in, go deep into themselves, just get themselves in the right zone so as they're able to prepare and play to the best of their level.
Absolutely, and so many people, unfortunately, go the other way. They think that pressure and shouting and, kind of fear, really using fear as a way of motivating people to achieve their best. But I certainly know from working in the field of education for many years, and you yourself know this, that if you do that, again, people are going to crumble under pressure, because the brain just can't function, when it's in that state of fear and anxiety. We're not supposed to be thinking clearly or being able to sort out a problem and come up with a creative solution if we think we're in danger. And most of what we're afraid of, generally in life, is not real. Losing a match is not going to kill somebody at the end of the day. And I understand that this is a dangerous virus, and there's, we have to be careful. But if we keep focusing on that, and that's all we're thinking about, then obviously that does impact our immune system as well, and how we're dealing with things. And unfortunately, I have heard some very, very sad news of some young people who just haven't been able to mentally cope with this and have actually taken their own lives during this. And this is one of the things that's been a big concern to me. I'm having worked with so many young people for so many years, and I'm sure to you as well, where you've come across this, suicide ideation, and people thinking that there's no way out other than that. And that is to me just equally as worrying as this, this fear of this virus and what's going on out there, is to really give young people in particular. I mean, I know older people as well will be suffering from this too. But in particular, young people who feel they don't have any choice, is to give them hope and to give them some tools that they can get through this. Even if they're worried about their exams, if they've got exams coming up and they don't know if they're going to happen this year and what's going to happen, these things are out of their control, and worrying about them is not going to help. So I know you have young learners as well. You've been able to connect with them online. What have you noticed with your learners?
Well, I can just take it back a small bit there, Sarah. I still can't understand, this idea in GAA football in particular, where people shout and roar in the dressing room. I've been asked in several different clubs, do I not shout at all? So, should I not be shouting at these guys just to wake them up, type of thing? And like, the realization is that if I have to shout at somebody to make something happen, well, then we're already have failed. Like, you know what I mean? You have to reach the good within the people and make sure that you're bringing them with you. And I can guarantee you that if you start shouting at young people that I work with, and I say to you, some of them would come from difficult backgrounds, straight away you're going to put them under pressure, and they are going to react in a negative manner. And coming forward to this coronavirus, basically, everyone is going to be feeling it, and even all of those young people who have this sense that nothing is ever going to happen to them, a lot of that is going to be a front. They will be, several of those guys will be exceptionally fearful of what may happen in the future. Maybe not to themselves, but maybe to loved ones in particular. And I do believe that, like, we need to get a grasp on how reality sets in and should set in these cases. We are at war. There's a relation of my wife's a nurse, and she was saying, like, we are at war. This is our war. And basically, like, we need to ensure that, we have the right frame of mind to deal with that. If you look at the numbers and, the numbers of people that have passed away, the numbers of people that have got this virus, in reality, it's still very, very small. We don't want to lose anybody, but it's still very, very small. And if we can get this across to young people that, like, this is a virus, if we do the right thing, if we behave in the right manner, we will survive this, and they will survive this and move on to be better people. And I do think that it will be a better world in the future, if we can get across this line. And that's what it's all about, Sarah. It's all about just getting across this line, doing the right things to make it happen. And we do need to connect with the young people in particular. We do need to connect with older people. I fear for the older people as well, who are cocooned at this moment in time. Each one of those people too are suffering mentally. Absolutely. But, like, the one thing about those people, Sarah, is that they have the resources. They have the life experience. The young people don't have the life experience. So we need to get the message across to those young people that there is an opportunity here, to do the right thing, stay safe, connect with each other, and we will beat this virus.
Absolutely. And I think very much to come out of focusing on ourselves, and worrying about ourselves and what's going to happen to us and everything else. But if we do expand our awareness, as you said, and we connect with other people and we think about other people, that actually raises us as human beings anyway, because now we operate from a position of consideration and kindness and care, and that can only help ourselves at the same time. So absolutely, that message of, yes, we're at war. We've got soldiers who are at the front of this, the front line, who are working, desperately hard and who deserve our absolute admiration and support all the way. And us staying at home is, like, to me, it feels like the home guard. We've got to look after ourselves and the people around us. And that is equally as important, because it has that knock-on effect in terms of protecting other people.
I think we have to give back, Sarah. Like, for any sort of purpose in life, I think we've got to give back to one another. And again, I just go to the point that maybe younger people don't have the life experience of that, but we have to, make these guys aware that, there is opportunities for them to, just give back something, even at their young age. And if they do give back, they will get more. And I've always believed in that. If I could just quickly tell you about a very quick story. When I had a son that was stabbed in a concert up in Dublin, and I went on holidays about 5 months after. I didn't think I should have gone at all, but I went. But I met this guy who was selling flowers. He was a Muslim. And we just sat down. He just came over to me and he said, "Sir, a penny for your thoughts," because I was kind of still thinking about my son back home. And we got talking, and it was an amazing experience. Like, I asked him, obviously, because I wanted to make sure that my son was all right. Would he pray to his God and blah, blah, blah. To make a long story short, I was trying everything to make sure that my son was going to be safe and okay. And he talked about his family and that, he had left him to come over to Spain to try and get some money so as he could feed him. And we spent about at least 20, 25 minutes speaking to each other. And it was just amazing the way that you could connect with somebody. At the end of it, Sarah, I gave him a sum of money, which was very small sum of money. He didn't want to take it. He said, "No, sir, no way." And I said, "Please take it. And just please, pray for my son if you get the opportunity." And eventually he took that sum of money. We eventually walked, there was a group of 8 of us, and we walked down to a restaurant, and I was going into the restaurant. The other people went ahead of me. And when I was going through, I just looked on the ground, and the same sum of money that I had given that man was on the ground. And I just, to me, it meant an awful lot. It's, to me, psychologically, there was a massive connection between this guy and I, who I've never met before, who spoke for 25 minutes as if we were lifelong friends. And for this to happen afterwards, there is far, far more within us. And I believe that, we can go, especially in these times. I honestly believe that if we dig deep enough, there is an awful lot more within the human being to be better, to be good towards other people, to develop better as a human race, even, like, you know.
Absolutely. And there are so many things that young people and any age can do to be able to access that, to really go in. And we've talked about grounding, and just in case no one knows what grounding is just simply sitting or standing, focusing on our feet, imagining roots going into the earth, being connected into the planet. I mean, the best way actually is to be barefoot on the grass, absolutely. And now at least the weather's a little bit warmer, we can do that. And just to focus on breathing in a balanced way, in for 5 and out for 5. And just to calm the whole, we have what's called the autonomic nervous system, which is our alert system or our relaxed system, and just bring it into balance. And by just doing that and just bringing ourselves into that kind of stillness, we can quieten our negative thoughts, our inner chatter, that inner critic, whatever's going on. We can calm our whole breathing, which then calms our physical system in terms of that, fight or flight response. And I think the more people who know about this, and I know I've taught staff from over 70 primary schools here in Ireland, and I have one amazing school which I have to give a shout out to St. Joseph's National School in Rathwire in Westmeath. That when they introduced this to children as young as 4 and 5, but across the entire school and the teachers as well, the impact was immediate. And I think that's what's lovely about something like grounding, is it's immediate. This isn't about 20 minutes of meditation, which is lovely and it's great to do, but most people forget to do that, or they think even now that they don't have enough time, that this is something that within 30 seconds or a minute can just bring ourselves back to the present, back to now, back into our bodies, calm everything down. And in fact, what I don't know about you, but I found that at the beginning, absolutely, I was glued to the TV, and I wanted to know what was happening and what did this mean. And my business completely changed because people come to physically see me. So obviously that couldn't happen. My children were home from school. I was going to have to homeschool. Yet everything was up in the air. But as time has gone on, I've always, I'm lucky because I'm not on the front line, but just the more time I spend being present, the less I'm thinking about that, because worrying about it's not going to change it. I'm observing the social distancing, I'm keeping myself at home, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and then I'm getting on, with life in the here and now. And I really hope that more and more people are having that experience. And if they're not, then grounding is a great way of actually doing that.
I was as I said, I was out in the garden this morning. The grass was wet, Sarah, and when I started grounding, I could actually feel the heat on my feet, even though the grass was wet. Grounding is actually amazing. Like, I have young people, as I say, some of them come from troubled backgrounds, and they come in the morning times and ask me, can we do some grounding?
Yeah.
That's what it's meant to them. Like, and as I said to you, some of these young guys have had difficult backgrounds. They're tough guys. But when you can hold a room of 18 of these guys and not a whisper or a sound, you're doing something good. And when you have these guys come in asking you, can we do some grounding? And it's amazing to see the reactions, like, to see the physiology, the change in people's demeanor, and what's going on within them as you're doing it. It's absolutely enormous. And it's great to see and hear that you're doing that in schools, because I think, again, the younger that young people learn about this, the better people are going to be in the future.
Oh, absolutely. To me, it's a life skill, and it's in every arena. I mean, I predominantly used it at the beginning with learning, to help people with learning difficulties, and then discovered actually this works with everybody for everything. And like that, one of my favorite things to hear from teachers when I've taught them the system is that, yeah, absolutely, that if they forget to do it, that one of their students will put their hand up and say, can you ground us first, please? And particularly the school in Westmeath, they're grounded in the morning when they come in, they're grounded when they come in from breaks, they're grounded when they're changing, subjects. If anything happens at school that's emotional, the kids know, and the children and the young people, well, they get, as they get into 6th class, we always do demos with the 6th class for other schools that come in to do the training. And it is absolutely remarkable to see the confidence, not in a cocky, overconfident way, but actually just this lovely calm confidence. And to see a group of 12-year-olds like that just really shows the power of this. They've been using this, for years and years. It's just become second nature. They use it in sports, they use it in music, they use it at home. Any situation where they would normally feel a bit anxious or a bit worried, they know they have this tool, this skill, and they use it frequently, every single day of their lives, which is just incredible. And I had one hope, one dream that could come out of this difficult time, is that these talks that I've done with people is to give a tool, particularly something like grounding, that people can take away from this and just start using immediately, and start to see the results really for themselves, and to really appreciate the impact that they can have on themselves and the people around them.
Some of my young learners, Sarah, would have difficulty actually leaving my room and going to another room to ask for a biro or a pencil. I had one young girl in particular who had a serious issue where she was supposed to go on work experience, but she was so terrified that she wasn't even able to go into a shop to ask for a present for her mother. So I asked her would she be interested in doing a couple of sessions. We did a couple of sessions of grounding and a couple of sessions of anchoring. She is now working in a hair salon for the last 6 months. And that's only one case. And I could tell you about several cases that when you combine the grounding and the anchoring in particular, it makes a massive difference. It makes a massive difference to people's lives. And it's amazing to actually see, people that can gain energy and strength and stand in front of a camera, because of the modules that we do, some of them have to make presentations in front of cameras. I had a situation where one guy fainted. We had to get him water, we had to sit him down. So what I did with him is I did some anchoring with him the next day. He stood in front of the camera for 10 minutes and he just carried on as normal. And he has developed...
For people who don't know what anchoring is an NLP technique of being able to re-access positive emotions from the past and create a way of then anchoring them. So you literally, it could be pressing a knuckle or something like that, where once you've kind of secured all those emotions in there, every time you press it, it brings up those positive emotions. And the beauty of that is that anyone can do it anytime, anywhere.
Absolutely. And again, Sarah, if I can go back to my own situation, I had a brother-in-law pass away suddenly on a Wednesday night, and we were playing the county semi-final with the team that I'm with this year on a Sunday. And the poor chap was buried on a Saturday, but I went down on the Sunday and I was really all over the place, and there's no point in saying any different. I was really in a difficult position. I had to leave, everybody was in the dressing rooms and that, and before I gave my speech, I actually found a corner on my own and I did some grounding, and then I had also done some anchoring on myself previous, and I used that anchoring technique to gain the strength to go back into the dressing room to get through that speech and that match type of thing, It's I don't think people realize how strong that both these connections can have in the body.
Oh, absolutely.
And the mind, Sarah, and the mind in particular.
For sure, and the beauty of it is free. These things are people can do with themselves to check in, and when you have that tool, and everyone is human and we all have emotions. It's not about saying to suppress anything. That's not what this is about. This is about accessing positive emotions to deal with something and to get ourselves through it, and to recognize that we don't have to be completely brought down by negativity and negative emotions and anxiety and everything else. That is a set of emotions, but quite often it's about things that are more in our minds and not things that are actually directly going to impact us, but obviously have an emotional impact on us. But we can ride the emotion, we can get through it. Learning these tools and these skills can really help with that.
And I say to my players and I say to my young people who are going through difficult times, you have to be at your strongest when you're feeling at your weakest. And, that's meaning that you may not be able to give 100% at any stage, at all stages, but you can certainly be the best you can at that particular stage. And if you can develop the mentality that you can be, no matter what situation you come across, that you can be the best you can at that particular stage, well, then you will develop a mentality to get across the line no matter what's required. As I think it was Viktor Frankl said, when you're no longer able to change a situation, then you are challenged to change yourself. So basically, you know, this is a challenge for us now. It's a major challenge to every individual. But I honestly believe that we need to combine our efforts and connect, make sure that we're doing all the social distancing, make sure we're keeping our distance from each other, but also to make sure that we're connecting, you know, through different mediums to ensure that everybody is safe. I honestly believe that we will get through this, but, you know, the younger people in particular, you know, they can buy into it, they can learn from it. And as I said to you, you know, the world can be a far, far better place.
Well, I hope so. And Patrick, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. You're a gentleman, you're an amazing man, and it was such a pleasure to have you on my course when you came to it. And I can see even the first weekend had a massive impact on you. I think you were a bit blown away by some of it, but I know that you've really embraced it, and you took it back to your players and to your young learners and to your own life. And it's just, to me, it's always such an honor to be even a little part of somebody's journey. And my aim for this is just to spread as much positive resources and tools out there to people, to let people know they all have it inside of them. They just have to know how.
Well, Sara, as I said to you, like, you know, I firmly believe that there is an awful lot more within us. I honestly think that we need to take action to make that happen. You know, I also say to my players, like, you know what I mean, that, you know, you can look into a mirror and see, are you happy enough with who you are, or can you become the person you can be? And, you know, that's where we need to go with this. Like, you know, can you become the person that you can be, not the person that you are? And I honestly think that the world can be a better place. As I say, I met you, I developed an awful lot, I feel, from the course that you provided, because I think that, you know, there is so much more within us, and we have to strive to find that, particularly in these times of need, in these times of challenge and fear. And, you know, if we can dig deep within ourselves, use the tools that we have, use the tools that you and you in particular can provide for us, we can be a far, far better place.
Thanks, Patrick. And if people want to get hold of you, we can put some details underneath. Would that be okay?
No problem whatsoever, Sara. And as I said to you, I would love to speak with anybody that needs any sort of help in this situation, because I do think that you know, we will be a far, far better community for us.
Absolutely. Patrick, enjoy the rest of Easter weekend, and I look forward to seeing you in person very, very soon.
Hopefully, Sara, hopefully. As I said to you, who knows, but, like, you know, I would say once more to everyone to stay safe, make sure we're keeping our distance. Look forward to the time that we can get back to, you know, putting our arms around each other and hugging each other, because that will come, and we'll appreciate it even more.
Absolutely, and the more people who do that now, the quicker that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely, same message across. To stay safe, and yeah, we'll chat soon. Thanks a million, Patrick. We'll chat soon.
Take care, Sara. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.